So today we will start with the three phases, so sometimes known as the relief, response, and rehabilitation, or they are all sometimes known as response and recovery. Okay, so relief, response, and rehabilitation. So it is up to the person who wants to describe it, but everything comes under either these two head or the three heads. So totally, it they means the same. So either you have to say it is a relief, response, and rehabilitation, or you have to say response and recovery. So recovery means recover to be rehabilitable or to get rehabilitated to a previous state, which is commonly known as a normal state before the disaster impacted. So let's start what happens in the relief phase. So let me first go through the slides very quickly because there are not too many points in this particular slide, and then I will dictate a few points. You can keep a note of those, and you can refer any place, any book, or any material, or any case studies to study those particular cases. Because during a disaster, like only after the occurrence of a disaster, people those who are not affected by the disaster, they get to know about those disasters. So this, we are more informed about the information that we get in this relief, response, and rehabilitation phases. So we discuss the mitigation and preparation a bit more in details, but relief phases, rehabilitation and response are all like it is very difficult to segregate one step from the other. So we are trying to discuss all of them under the same umbrella, under the same headings. So in the relief phase, what basically happens is the phase begins when assistance from outside area starts reaching the disaster site. The relief supplies are determined by two factors. One is the type of the disaster. So depending on that particular disaster, which kind of relief material has to be brought, and the other type is availability of local supplies. That how much of those relief material can be availed from the local supplies. Okay. So in a relief phase, certain things has to be taken care of. Like what are those material which has to be brought in as a relief? So first is a critical health supplies and casualty supplies for casualties. So basically the first aid and rescuing equipments, they have to be brought in. Next is food, blanket, clothes, shelter, and sanitary engineering, whatever is required to cover up this. So which type of food needs to be provided? So for example, say in a cyclone, after a cyclone and after a uh, epidemic, the food has to be different. After a cyclone, you particularly have to have dry foods. But in case of a pandemic, probably you have to have more concern on the nutrition value of the food, as well as improving immunity. So food which improves the immunity, those has to be brought in, like blankets for putting up and sleeping or covering themselves up, necessary clothings, because they have left most of the people during a natural disaster, they leave their belongings in their home and come to a shelter. So relief phase also includes providing temporary shelters as well as necessary things which are required for basic hygiene, maintenance of basic hygiene at those particular places. Next is measures to prevent outbreak of communicable diseases. So this comes under the relief phase only. So neither you are only stopping the uh, like chances of growing a disease, you are also trying your best to avoid, if at all a disease breaks up, you have to contain it within that particular zone. It should not go beyond that particular zone and start affecting other people's. Next is monetary assistance or economic assistance in terms of donations. So that can be governments, that can be private, in any form. It can come as a relief material. And the last is the transportation of resource, transportation of relief material, storage of those material, distribution of food, medicines, and relevant vitamins. So if we summarize all these in different stages, that all these supplies of can be done in 4 different stages under this relief. First is the acquisition of the supply. So suppose you are having a problem in all the 4 5 coastal districts of Odisha, which is a coastal hazard. So what will happen is, from several places which are not affected, certain supplies will come and reach certain headquarters. Say for the southern section, Berhampur is the headquarter in the southern district. In the central district, Puri is the headquarter. In the northern district, you might have Balasore as the headquarter. In that way, we have certain headquarters where materials are transported, and so acquisition happens from those center. So they are stored in those particular headquarters, and from there, those are transported very close to storage facilities in the disaster prone areas. So transportation is the second component, storage is the third component. Because see, after acquisition and transportation, see, acquisition and transportation cannot be done daily continuously. So their bulk acquisition happens, but then they are stored in small components in different locations where they might be needed. Now it may happen that when the distribution is happening, if everything, say for 7 days relief material is distributed to one family at a time, then it may happen that only 20% family gets the relief material, and rest of the 80% people don't at all receive anything for even one day. So better distribute them depending on the capacity. Suppose you have 20 tons of product and there are say 1000 population, distribute those 20 tons to those 1000, so that minimum things at least reaches everybody to survive till the next supply arrives. Okay, the next stage is disaster response. So disaster response is like, with along with the relief material, how do you respond to the outcome of the disaster? How fast or how technically sound you are in responding to the issues arising out of the impact of the disaster. So like, uh, so if we say that here exclusive response happens in improving the nutrition of the affected area, improving the vaccination, as well as having a surveillance over epidemiological, that means spread of contagious diseases. If they are spreading, you have to monitor its pattern of spread, and you have to do the necessary treatment, so that sometimes it happens, say in a core area an epidemic has spread, so immediately a periphery is demarcated, and any people lying near the periphery or just outside the peripheral area are first vaccinated. That means once it starts spreading, the people those who have received the vaccination will not help in the transmission further. And then people comes inside, and with proper vaccination, nutritional improvement, food and medicine, they get rid of the disease, forming an epidemic. They don't allow the disease to form an epidemic. Okay. So So first stage of this response is surveillance or early warning system. So since there is a tradition of basic early warning system in the preparation phase itself, so we can continue with that even after the disaster. So rapid detection of the cases can be done, and we have observed live examples of how we have surveillance system for a pandemic. So surveillance or early warning system should be quickly established to detect outbreak and monitor priority of epidemic diseases, that which spreads at what speed. If it is a dengue, at what speed it spreads. If it is influenza or a flu, at what speed it spreads. Like dengue and similar fever has to be carried by mosquitoes. Plague has to be carried out by rats. But this corona transmits through the aerosol, which can come in contact, which can be transmitted through physical contact, and there will be certain diseases which gets transmitted which are airborne. So something which is airborne travels faster, so that has to be prevented first. Then something which comes in contact, then the last one would be something where you need to coexist. Say a person having a pox is a viral infection, so you have to coexist with a person having a pox, maybe, to avoid it becoming a to get affected. So you need to have a priority of disease lists and try to understand that the degree of threat from those, and accordingly take the response. Accordingly you have to respond. Like accordingly respond means, it will not always happen that the doctor who is supposed to come for the extremely prior uh, disease is coming late. That should not happen. If you feel that certain people has to be trained for immediate emergency action of response, they have to be trained beforehand, and some diseases which comes in priority or which spreads in priority has to be treated first. That can only be possible if you have a proper surveillance system. That means in today's day we are seeing only the count of pandemic of corona, but there are some agencies who are actually mapping out the location of the cases, putting them and finding the density of propagation of the disease also. Okay. Next is the communicable diseases. So the potential risk of communicable diseases influenced by 6 type of adverse changes. So they are the diseases. There are a lot of communicable diseases, but they can be impacted by certain more things, like change in pre-existent level of disease. So initially there was a dormant condition of the disease which gets actuated or accelerated during the disaster. Say, let's take the example of this corona COVID-19. So in Odisha and West Bengal, before this Amphan attack, there were daily spike of say 30, 40 people or say 100 people in the whole state. But once the disaster struck, the daily count started increasing rapidly. So the disease started communicating rapidly because of an adverse effect of a natural disaster. There can be other man-made disaster also. So people are in strike because they are not getting paid. So everybody forgetting all social distancing are all sitting together. Or people are going to celebrate something in say yesterday some a lot of thousands of people gathered in indoor for some rallies and all. So man-made disasters also helps in the increasing the risk of the communicable diseases. Next is the ecological changes. So we were hoping कि summer जब तक है, गर्मी जब तक है, this virus is not going to spread that much. But okay, summer is done, monsoon has arrived, and daily count is increasing. So an ecological change is accelerating the communicable disease. Next is population displacement. So same example, same disaster, same example. So after this pandemic, there were few special trains where workers from different states were brought into the parent states. So the population was displaced, and along with them, the disease got communicated. Next is density of population. So high population per square unit of area gets gets affected at a very higher speed. So sometimes population density also assists the communicable diseases to spread. Next is disruption of public utilities and interruption of basic public health service. So if basic public utilities like water supply and drainage and all are disrupted, disease will spread faster. If basic public health service, that means the primary health center closes down, or temporary medical centers and temporary medical camps, they close down, disease will start spreading faster. Okay. The other cause can be changes in pre-existence level of diseases, which was the second one. So this is what we have discussed, that usually the risk of a communicable disease in a community affected by disaster is proportional to the endemic level. There is generally no risk of a given disease when the organism causing it is not present beforehand. So if there was a say the virus of pox, they remain in year, but it shows its effect in a particular season. It starts showing its effect in a particular season. Say in the month of March, April, and May, it starts showing its season because it was already there. But generally, it doesn't happen that a fresh organism start causing a disastrous condition. Next is relief workers can conceivably introduce communicable diseases into areas affected by disaster. So relief workers they demarcate the areas which are affected by the disaster where any disease can become communicable faster. So they understand that, they appreciate and acknowledge that, and then start working from that particular areas. Ecological changes caused by disaster is what we have discussed. Population displacement also has been discussed right now. So those points which I have discussed, those 4 or 5 points, are explained in subsequent slides. Disruption of public utilities, including electricity, water supply, sewage disposal, and other public utilities, which if interrupted, which generally gets interrupted after a disaster. So either you have to have proper mitigation plan, or you have to be prepared to face this kind of disrupted public utilities. So this sometimes lead to, say you don't have water or proper clean water to wash your hands, take a bath and all. You don't have proper water to drink. So disease will transmit at a faster rate. So you have to avoid as much as possible the disruption of public utilities. We were discussing in the last class that in case we are prepared for a say cyclonic storm, immediately all the high tension cables are disrupted intentionally. They're cut off. There is no power transmission for 1 or 2 hours during the cyclone. That helps in rehabilitating the damaged high tension wire if the cyclone disrupts the public, disrupts the electrical supply. So we are trying to prevent a excess costly treatment of rehabilitation by preparing ourselves or by mitigating the cause of problem. Okay. Next is principles of preventing and controlling communicable diseases. So the National Disaster Management Authority (NDMA) has certain broad rules which they implement from time to time to avoid or to prevent the communicable diseases from spreading. So implement immediately all public health measures to reduce the risk of disease transmission. So they observe that how this disease or individual disease arising in the disastrous area communicates or gets transmitted. They first try to cut off those line. Okay, so in this COVID case, first thing that they tried is put people in their house, ask them not to come out. So once they are within their house, it is not transmitting at a high rate, then we can start with proper like reporting system, that everybody will say that हमारे घर में ऐसे ऐसे the certain kinds of symptoms are visible. So now it would be easier for the authorities, concerned authorities, to investigate and organize necessary steps in order to reduce or prevent the communicable diseases. Next step can be ensure safe water and sanitation in those particular areas. So here also, if there is a particular place where too many numbers of corona cases are coming in Rourkela, immediately the water is supply is stopped for 6 hours. Basic cleaning happens in the whole area. Sanitization happens. अचानक सा लगेगा as if president is going to arrive in this particular location. Everything is arranged, clean, and lot of preventive measures are taken. Primary health centers come up with small camps. They set it up. They do lot of signages and symbols, and they announce everything in mics. And then water supply is restored. So they have, in the meantime, they have cleaned the drainage also accordingly. So that is in today's day. Today, what I observed is in NIT campus, these two things are happening. Okay, we have primary camps, testing camps in the community center. We have the water supply in certain places were stopped, and then basic cleaning of the supply so that it doesn't get transmitted through the supply of water also. Because who knows that the water which is being brought from the river passing through so many places is not carrying good quantity of this virus or not, and we are not doing any chemical treatment. We are just doing reverse osmosis. So to ensure proper sanitation, sometimes these are good preventable measures. Okay. Some examples are given below the 2 points. Ensure early diagnosis and treatment of diarrheal diseases, because diarrhea spreads like anything. Next, diseases like ARI, acute respiratory infection, I guess. Okay, we have this severe acute respiratory infection, or it is commonly known as an influenza like illness, ILI, that you might have heard nowadays, or say malaria. These spread very fast. So early diagnosis is necessary. Don't wait, don't do the testing. See, otherwise, corona actually initially used to take 3 to 4 days to get detected or tested. But we have invested a lot to come with the rapid testing system so that early diagnosis can help in the early starting of the treatment, and they thus avoid the communicable disease to spread. Next is ensure availability of drugs included in the interagency emergency healthy kit. It means immediate emergency के लिए जो चीजें चाहिए, that has those drugs has to be made available. So in our case, it was like the medicines or the vitamins containing zinc, or the hand sanitizers in case of corona, or the masks. They were made available in particular locations all throughout the countries. A boost was given for the availability of this. So that also prevents the communicable diseases. Next is the vaccine. So let's not discuss too much into vaccine, but mass vaccine programming, because this is what, if your eyes and ears are open over the last 6 7 months, I'm sure this doesn't needs a explanation in the class itself, but you need to remember these particular points. So okay, some of the medical vaccinations are discussed in here. Next is nutrition. So not only vaccination, but supportive nutrition also helps in the as a part of the response, but that leads to the recovery also, because you are have to be rehabilitated back. So सिर्फ disease को मारने से नहीं होगा, you also have to get back to your original condition or non disaster affected condition. So you need proper nutrition also to get back to your previous pre-disaster condition. So generally, there are a lot of drives where supply of food happens, which is induced by nutritional values, say green vegetables or fruits. This needs to be induced in particularly those people, see infants, children, pregnant women, nursing mothers, sick person, elderly person, those people, those who easily get affected by a disaster, they have to be first served. They not only need medication or vaccination, but they also need proper nutrition. Okay. So uh, first take a few points, important points. Okay, I will just summarize all the points. If you remember those like headings, then probably you would be able to remember the whole context of post disaster or post impact of the disaster stages of disaster management cycle. So first, okay, we will summarize all these three aspects under two headings. One is response, the other will be recovery. So rehabilitation is actually recovery only, or reconstruction and rehabilitation both comes under the recovery phase. So first is response. So okay, so under response, first we need to understand what are the objective of response phase. Why we need to respond immediately. So under response, right, the objectives of the response phase. Okay, I will share the handouts now, but so that so that the important points has to be found out from the handout itself. So I'm just citing the important points only, the headings only. I'm not discussing the points under that. The second the second topic of subtopic of discussions are the major steps of the response. In the response stages, what are the three important steps that we have to follow? So the three important steps in response stage. First is search and rescue. Search and rescue. Second is medical care. Medical care. Third one is humanitarian relief. Humanitarian relief. Okay. Along with this, these are the three important steps. So we have discussed search and rescue in last class also, because search and rescue phase of a response stage starts during the impact of the disaster only. Next is after the disaster. Just now we have discussed the medical cares, and if the organization is clear, the organization of human resource are clear, and then the medical cares and the supplies of relief material are clear, then we only supply of material will not help. You also need humanitarian relief. Okay, humanitarian relief also includes, like, say I have a permanent house or a pakka house in a disaster prone village where mostly there are rural houses. So during a disaster, this kind of houses acts as a rehabilitation center. So people all flock in as much as possible, as much as you can accommodate. So there, this sense of humanitarian activities or humanitarian relief comes up. Okay, so the third step is humanitarian relief. And other than that, so these are active response stages. These are the active steps of response. There are some other passive stages which are like damage assessment. Okay, so after this has to happen only after the complete phases of disaster impact is gone. So earthquake हो गया and उसका after shocks भी हो गया. Yeah, the cyclone, the head of the cyclone has made its landfall and the tails also has made it landfall. उसके बाद we start damage assessment. So you will see all the CMs and the PMs, they go in their helicopter and try to assess how much of area has been devastated and to what extent. So accordingly, they will plan the next rehabilitation as rehabilitation plan. Okay. So another indirect response is damage assessment, and another is proper coordination. Coordination between the organizations or the agencies. Okay. So in the first class of disaster management cycle, we have read that there are some general responsibilities, four general responsibilities, four specific responsibilities of disaster management, and we discussed about the different organizations. So if all the organizations, like, relief is the phase where maximum different types of organization has to come and work in coordination. Very difficult to tackle, very difficult to handle. There comes the role of a leader or a proper manager, because hundreds and thousands of people in the name of helping in with relief material are coming and working. See, in Amphan, there were teams of people from several communities, from different neighborhoods, all traveling to the affected area and supplying the relief material, helping out. But if those are not coordinated, then they are also in a danger. Unfortunately, one of my friend whose house is in the whose ancestral home is was in Sundarban. Every time there is a cyclone, the whole small delta estuary gets devastated. So this time, his father and many other people from the same neighborhood, they went for the relief. He came back with lot of positive symptoms, and he just gave 2 or 3 days for the treatment. He could not take up further treatment. So you can understand that things, if they are not coordinated well, like they felt that humanitarian relief is much more important than taking necessary prevention measure against corona. So they have kicked off corona's prevention measure and went to the extreme villages in Sundarban to reach the reliefs to the internet people. So that's a sad instance. Next stage, like after the step of response is over, then starts the step of recovery. So once relief is arriving, all the relief materials are arriving, then slowly with time, those affected people tries to recover. So this recovery depends on supply of relief depends on assessment of the damage. So just like yesterday we said that places which are devastated might not have received the relief material because the roads and the connectivities are disrupted. So people who went for the assessment could not reach the extremely affected place. So out of the uh, thrust of their duty feeling or feeling for the duty, they went to proper places जहाँ पे एक खिड़की चला गया. It is a pakka house. One of the window is broken. Some of the, like, nobody knows whether it was a cyclone because of which it broke or not. It might be a group clash which resulted in breaking of the buildings and all. But those houses were stated and they got the relief material, which didn't happen because the damage was not being able to assess properly. Okay. So in the recovery and rehabilitation phase, what things has to be supplied to help in the rehabilitation? Now rehabilitation means to put back a function or a community or a people back to any old function which it can adapt to. For example, say there was a school which was temporary in nature, but it has somehow survived. So later you see that that particular school is located in a disaster prone area. So don't rebuild it as a same school. You rehabilitate it to something which that particular site and building can adapt to. For example, instead of it being a school where hundreds of kids will come and they are all now susceptible to a disaster, next disaster, you rebuild the school by procuring land in a safer area, and in that particular site where it was a school, you convert it to some other usage which it can adapt to, where there will be less chance of effect of the disaster or impact of the disaster. So in this rehabilitation phase, we should be planning to start preferably just after the disaster or after the complete impact of the disaster is over, depending on the severity of the disaster or need of the people. So what do you have to do? What do you have to do in the response phase so that our rehabilitation becomes easier? First is proper supply of water, providing safe food to people, providing basic sanitation and personal level hygiene to people, and trying to control the vectors. Vectors means carrier of epidemic diseases. So बारिश हो गया, flooding हो गया, तो there might be mosquitoes which will carry up this malarias, and also avoid those. Like potable clean water supply will avoid the cause of these diarrheas and typhoids and all. So that helps in the rehabilitation. So the first point was water supply. So survey of all public water supplies has to be made, because water seeks its own level. You do not have to control water from moving from one place to the other. It will travel. So and water is a good carrier of vectors, disease creating vectors. So proper water supply, clean water supply by chlorination or adding alums and all has to be done. Okay. Now along with that, you have to restrict the access of people and animal to open water bodies. So you have to improve the sewerage system of the areas. You have to stop washing. Like during the pandemic, you can avoid washing your clothes in the ponds and the water bodies for some time, or washing your utensils for some day. You take the water from the well and you wash it at your home, but don't put all the waters into the water reservoirs. Okay. So good water supply, better food supply. Okay, I didn't have good images, so the same images are taken in here again. Next point is basic sanitation and personal hygiene. So here we are showing a picture where people are actually washing their hands. So regularly washing your hands helps in a lot of way. Helps in avoiding the transmission of the virus. It helps in maintaining the basic hygiene. And if you are washing your hands with soap, you are saving more money than you might have to spend on medical facilities. For example, say if you are purchasing sanitizer, the cost that you incur might be reduced if you are washing your hands regularly with soap or hand washes. Then we go for emergency toilet facilities in those particular areas. We have basic toilet facilities or portable toilets which are constructed in the disaster areas. Okay. next is we have briefly talked about the different vectors of different diseases, so that might be avoided. Like flood water is dangerous for most of them. Okay. So in this particular stage, you have to take note of the recovery phases. So in the recovery phase, please take a note. So the four stages. So we had mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. So in recovery, or we have certain stages. First is proper assessment of the damage again. Now we have to do micro scale damage assessment. So the first one is assessment of damage. Okay. Now just in bracket you write SOP, or standard operating procedure. Okay, so particularly in recovery phases, we generally follow the standard operating procedure. We generally do not do too much experiment. Whatever stages has been standardized for the recovery or rehabilitation, we preferably follow those. Okay, particularly we rebuild the public building, we consolidate the broken buildings or collapsed houses or rebuild them. We compensate certain people who have minor damages. We have to pay for removing the debris from the site after the disaster struck. So all this comes under the standard operating procedure. Standard operating procedure is our next topic under this, probably maybe the last or the last but one topic, penultimate topic of this particular chapter. The second stage of recovery is reconstruction. Okay. So now it is up to the experts' role whether they will think that reconstruction will be done using the existing material or we have to introduce fresh material. But we have to take necessary care so that this time the building construction is such that next time when a similar scale disaster impact, similar damage should not happen. मतलब हर साल मकान बनाता हूँ, एक ही मकान बनाता हूँ, and every year there is the same disaster and your house breaks. That should not happen. So that aspect has to be considered while reconstruction. So the second stage is reconstruction. Noted. The third phase is economic rehabilitation. Okay, a disaster always. See, I'm reading from the handout which was written long back. This particular book from where I have taken this aspect was when what is it published? It is published first edition in 2018 and reprinted in 2019. And in 2020, you have live examples explaining all these points. So provide economic support to the people for minimum standard of living that has to be provided. You have to make the loan policies easier. Okay. You have to provide employment for people to assist in the reconstruction of the economy also. So you see that in current day, over the last 6-7 months, these particular aspects are happening. Economic rehabilitation ke liye lot of plans are coming up. So what they are doing is, it may not look feasible. That means there is not a single rupee from the government on your hand, but they are following the standard operation procedure of economic revival or economic rehabilitation. Okay. It also includes change in the or suggesting alternative crop pattern. So right now, if there is a particular crop which needs excessive quantity of water, so you should try to avoid those kind of crop for this particular season. Try to go for those crops which will not need that much quantity of water. So that was decided during the summer. So this time supply of sugar cane, supply of cottons were reduced this particular summer. Onion supply was reduced. Okay, lot of things which grows out the soil or under the soil requires excess water. So the growth of those or cultivation of those were reduced. Because one may question unknowingly that why they are doing this. You have seen on lot of social forum that आज के दिन में this should have been the priority, but people are forgetting their priority and doing पता नहीं क्या क्या चीजें कर रहे हैं. But what they are doing is they are bound to do so because those are the primary responsibility or those are the standard operating procedures. let me just share you one of the document. This is the document that I will share with you. Uh, can everybody see my screen where there is a chapter 6
Sir.
disaster management cycle?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Everyone can see this, including Devashish and Ankush. See, if you remember whatever we have discussed till now, we have discussed the vulnerability, where the equation was again cited that risk depends on the product of the hazard and vulnerability. Then we discussed this particular cycle, which is a disaster management cycle, starting from mitigation on the left to preparedness to relief and recovery. Then under the mitigation, we had all these 4 stages, and today we discuss the response. So these particular headings were there in today's discussion, as well as the recovery. So recovery, we have discussed the reconstruction of houses, water supply, food supply also we added. So wherever I felt some addition, I have added with these particular sections. Commercial establishment, economic establishment, rehabilitation. So in rehabilitation, we have discussed reconstruction as well as economic rehabilitation. Okay, so just above that figure, we have the objectives of mitigation. These are the same as was there in the presentation also. Okay, then we did 2 sections which are like hazard mapping and vulnerability analysis and mitigation measures for the building. Okay, mitigation from man-made disaster is here. So all the 5 points that was pointed out there was a summary of the description is given in this handout. 2, 3, 4. Okay. For this particular aspect of safety audit, which is in exhibit 6.2, I have shown you one of the typical fire safety audit chart in the presentation. Next, we started discussing the second stage, which was preparedness, which we discussed in the last class yesterday, where Pragya was probably asking for this disaster management plan, the DMP. So from here, you can identify the objectives of disaster management plan. The objectives are in here. The early warning system, the evacuation plan, the shelter and sheltering plan, and inventory of resources. Okay, because the points that were there in the presentation were to help me in explaining you. But once you will be reading, and definitely when you will be studying, you cannot have a group study just as you used to do before your exams when you were in the campus. So these handouts might help you. So I will share this handout with you all. Okay. So here is the response. So today we started with the response, where you have the search and rescue, medical care, humanitarian relief, and the 2 others are damage assessment and coordination. And in the recovery phase, the objective of recovery are in here. So please note these particular points. I didn't get time today to put this in the presentation though. So this 6.7, beside this recovery, you just note it that you have to note these objectives of recovery phases, and the assessment of damage, reconstruction, and economic rehabilitations are in here. So when do we have our next class?
Tuesday, sir.
On Tuesday. Tuesday 1 hour class है. So 1 घंटे में we will try to cover up standard of operating procedure. Okay, and then if you see the क्या कहते हैं उसको, the syllabus of this particular. Okay, if you see the syllabus. Okay, is the syllabus visible on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Everyone, Swarup, can you see?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so till now, if we recap broadly, understanding the concept or the overviews was done. important definitions were discussed, five important definitions were discussed, and then we discussed the natural and the man-made disasters. Okay. So these are tentative terms. We discussed them exhaustively. All possible types of natural and man-made disasters were pointed out, and we had a general discussion on that. And then to summarize this and to get into the next module, we discussed a new chapter, which was objectives and principles of disaster management. Okay, so that with the basic idea of business management, we have to step into the disaster management. So you have to be a specialized manager. For that, we have studied the objectives and the different principles followed in different countries. We summarized those, and we had a two classes were dedicated for that. Then we started the disaster management cycle, right? So where pre-disaster risk assessment and analysis were discussed in the name of mitigation. The prevention and mitigation of disasters were before the impact, and which has the subtopic early warning system, preparedness, capacity development. Now capacity development, to explain that how you can improve your capacity development, I will try to more focus on architectural aspects, like architecturally how not if I start discussing about planning, then it will be all those aspects of economic rehabilitation for capacity building. Like all type of rehabilitation helps in the capacity building, so that next time you have the necessary information, necessary money, necessary building constructed to avoid the impact of the upcoming disasters. That is how we built our capacity, or we built our resilience. Then we were discussing last class, we discussed the evacuation plan, sheltering plans. Disaster communication were also discussed in preparedness, as well as today under the response also we discussed disaster communication. We discussed search and rescue. The emergency operation centers are something like which we do not have to discuss in detail as an architect, but you need to know that there has to be different tiers of emergency operation centers, like something in the state center, something in district center, something in block level center, as well as something in affected area. So in different tiers, the operation center has to be placed. Then relief and rehabilitation, including the response. So response, relief and rehabilitation is what we have discussed today. So this actually happens post disaster damage and need. So once we start taking up examples, you will be able to understand better. But in the next class, not only this standard operating procedures, but we have to go through this particular aspect, which is highlighted here. Yokohama strategy of 1994. Okay, once we are done with that particular strategy, it is a well-known. Let me show if I have this or not. Okay, since we will have a class after a long time, so what I will do is I will send the PDF link in your chat box. Okay, the link of the PDF is in your chat box. Please download that and have a look. Otherwise, it will not be interesting. नहीं तो बाद में इसको पढ़ाने में उतना इंटरेस्ट नहीं लगेगा. Because in 1994 in Japan, US took the initiative first, but it was housed in Japan because something happened in Japan, and then several nations came together and started to define a particular plan of action. The principles, plan of actions, and follow of actions, which is discussed in this 16 pages. ठीक है, देखने में 16 pages लग रहा है, but it is a very handy strategy. So once after discussing the Yokohama strategy, we can go back and study two aspects, which is emergency operation center and incident command system, which will be required. Like because of this Yokohama strategy only, there were a lot of outcome. There were a lot of strategies, sub strategies which are now maintained, and those strategies has become a standard procedure which are generally followed for natural disaster prevention. Okay, so with that we will conclude. So what I am hoping is by next week we will complete our second module. By next Thursday maybe we will complete our second module. So by that time all your ANC and everything would be over to some extent. So we will start taking up architectural strategies just for a break. Because if I start this Disaster Management Act and disaster management in India, role of NGOs and all, the third module, if I start immediately, you may not be that much interested by the intensity of the subject. So to make it more interesting, we will jump into the fourth module where we will discuss about the appropriate technology for disaster resistant structures or disaster resistant buildings. We'll take up one hazard at a time and try to follow it up with our discussion, general discussions only. So, but there won't be those many number of presentations, because if I start making presentation like 10, 20, 30 slides, I have to make in say 2 days, and it will be covered in half an hour only. So rather than that, you can take up, because we will discuss point wise only. We will not go too much into detail. Point wise पढ़ने में याद रखने में आसान रहेगा. And then if it is point wise, in small places everything is written, easy for you to remember also. Okay, so that is the strategy that we will take up. Okay. Let me once take the attendance. आज के attendance में 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Who is the unfortunate person today? CR. Okay. Amarta is absent today. Okay. So I will end the class today here. All other rest of the discussions, we'll have at least one dedicated class to recap everything what we have discussed. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.